Certainly if I'd have learnt that when I was younger and not spent so much on going out and handbags and shoes, I think I'd be in a better position now.
Parents are already juggling so much. Surely it's unfair to ask them to fit teaching their kids about money too.
You know, we've been having a lot of conversations about buy now, pay later again, and how do you start having those conversations going, look, you can get finance really easily, but is that the right thing to do? Really engaging kids with what do you want to do with your money? Understanding that we have to make considered spending choices.
Welcome back to the Pension Confident podcast with me, Laura Miller, standing in for Philippa Lamb. This month, research shows that money habits are set by the time children are just 9. So how do you make your kids good with money? According to the Money and Pension Service, almost 40% of adults in the UK don't feel confident managing their money. That's huge. 2 in 5 adults are lacking confidence when it comes to their finances. And yet we're expected to be financially literate and confident enough to make the right decisions with money, from picking a suitable savings account to choosing when you can afford to retire and all the milestones in between. So, when and how should we start learning about money? We've got 2 guests to help answer these questions. Will Carmichael is the co-founder and chief executive officer of Rooster Money, which uses digital tech to empower kids with an understanding of money. Welcome to the show, Will.
Thanks for having me on.
And next up, we have Emma Maslin. She's a certified money coach and mentor and founder of The Money Whisperer, an award-winning website that attempts to equip its readers with the right money mindset. It's so lovely to have you here, Emma.
Hi.
Now, for the usual disclaimer, anything discussed on this podcast should not be regarded as financial advice. And remember, when investing, your capital is at risk. Before we jump in, I've got a question for our panel. What one nugget of wisdom about money were you not taught but wish you had been?
Oh, I think compound interest has to be the thing that if we were teaching our young people this, we would be in a situation where lots more people would be able to enjoy their later life.
Just explain what compound interest is.
Compound interest is where your interest earns interest on itself. So if we leave our money in the bank and allow it to grow with the power of interest, leave the money that's there to continue to grow, it acts as sort of like a snowball effect. Now, we live in a society where we're encouraged to consume. So we end up not leaving our money in the bank to do this. If we could encourage and educate children to do this, and certainly if I'd have learnt that when I was younger and not spent so much on going out and handbags and shoes, I think I'd be in a better position now.
Well, I'd say that Emma's definitely taken my top one, which is compound interest. I think the fundamental one is talking about money. It is the biggest lesson of all. A lot of people's first conversation is a negative one, and I think that journey of actually starting early and talking about it is the best place. It's where everything starts.
Okay, well, for my side, I think that I wish I'd been told that credit card interest rates were the price of borrowing that money. I think if it had been framed in that way, that there is a cost to being given this so supposedly free-looking money, then I probably would have got into less debt at university. Who's responsible for teaching our kids about money? Parents are already juggling so much. Surely it's unfair to ask them to fit teaching their kids about money too.
Well, you already alluded to the fact that actually children are like little sponges and are building those habits and those behaviours and those attitudes toward money in those really early formative years before they're about 7 years old. So if you think who are the primary caregivers at that time, it's the parents. So whether we like it or not, as parents, we have a primary role in this period of our children's life to really make a difference. That being said, there's obviously a role to play within education settings as well. But I think we really need to be cognizant that those early years are when all the foundations are really set. And certainly in my role as a financial coach, where I see people who are struggling with money as adults, when we kind of trace it back to some of those messages that they were given when they were younger, they are things that happened to them when they were very, very young.
You will give children better life chances if they have a better grasp of financial education.
100%, because I think certainly with the adults that I deal with, where financial well-being is suffering, it has a ripple effect on the rest of their life. If you're not financially capable to eat well, to exercise well, if it's causing you anxiety that's disabling proper sleep, all of these things have a huge impact on your general well-being. So financial well-being is crucial to all of those other things. Now, if we can teach children the basic building blocks of good money habits and effective money management, we're enabling that financial resilience in them as adults, and it's so important.
What's tricky is that not all parents know the ins and outs of finance themselves. So if you're not financially confident, how do you teach your children to be?
There are lots of charities, which Will has alluded to already. I think for parents, it's great just to put your hand up and say to your children, do you know what? Mummy and Daddy didn't learn about this at school. What a great opportunity you've got to learn this stuff. And actually, do you know what? I'm going to learn it with you because I didn't learn it. And as well, I'm going to put my hands up and say, I made some mistakes and I don't want you to make those mistakes, because actually so many adults learn on the job. We teach our young children X, Y, and Z at school, and then we throw them out the door into adulthood at 18, where they're faced with letters from the bank that offer them credit cards with no teaching around what that actually really means for them to take on that credit card and the potential life implications if they get that wrong. How about we go, I made those mistakes, I don't want that for you, so let's learn it together.
From Rooster's point of view, say is we understand that everyone is different stages. So the focus of the app really is to start. If you're 3 or 4, you can start with a star chart. You can then activate a tracker where you can start getting your kids to think about saving towards goals, splitting money into pots. You can have conversations about earning money, and then at the right point you can activate a Visa debit card. So it's about a learning journey. It's about keeping parents involved too. It's letting grandparents contribute. But also, importantly, empowering kids to make decisions themselves.
So how do you introduce debt conversations to very young children? Well,
we've been having a lot of conversations about buy now, pay later again, and how do you start having those conversations going, look, you can get finance really easily, but is that the right thing to do? Are you thinking about that with everything else that you've taken on? So it's a big topic. And as you say, it's introducing it in conversation. And you can also put that in context of wider family stuff. What is a mortgage? That's a good place to start, or what you're doing as a family, because, again, they can understand that in context where they might not be in a debt product, which obviously they can't be sort of under the age of 18.
It's one of these things that you have to, as a parent or a teacher of any young person, it's about finding those teachable moments. So in that context, we've just done an extension on our house, and we've had age-appropriate conversations about how the bank gives you money to enable you to do things that you want to do to improve your life, and you have to pay that money back over time. So that's just bringing the concept into conversation with children. They're still little. Talking about interest rates and things is still too young for my primary age children, but it's just about normalising behaviours that we have and things that adults do in a way where it opens up the opportunity for them to ask more questions if they understand enough too. And if not, we've talked about it once, and when down the track there's a more opportune time to develop that conversation, we've already started that process.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know what challenges or changes you think the next generation will face with their money. What's going to be the big thing that they have to deal with?
You can probably split that. There's generational impact, COVID, huge spending in governments, inflation. Those things have an ongoing knock-on impact that will affect a number of generations. So that's kind of interesting. And then you've got this change, as I said, kind of, if you are 13, you're dealing in multi-currency already. You're dealing, the top trending things that the money is used for through Rooster money is Robux or spending on Fortnite or PlayStation credits. We're starting to talk about crypto and different ways to transact. So value and how we exchange value is changing, and I think that's going to see a huge change.
We've got these apps, but what financial products are there actually for kids? So there's no kids' mortgages or kids' pensions, are there?
We've all heard about the gender pensions gap, the gender pay gap. I am determined that my children will not retire with a gap in their pension compared to their life partner, if that is a male. And in order to do that, I have set them up with a pension. I've written about it on the PensionBee blog as well.
So this is a junior
This
SIPP,
is a junior SIPP.
self-invested personal pension.
Correct. Now, anybody can set up a junior SIPP for a child. They can pay in up to £3,600 a year. And actually, you get 20% tax relief on that. So you only actually have to put 80% of that in to the SIPP. Now, I've put in that small amount for my children. They're both under the age of 10. I'm going to do nothing else with it, and I'm going to let that grow over time for the next 50 years.
We've also got junior ISA as well.
Yeah, indeed. So you can take out, again, junior ISA. That will become, young person's property, as it were, on the age of 18. But you can put up to £9,000 a year into that. It's worth thinking about, that comes in two flavours. So cash, junior ISAs, and then, an invested one. And you need to look at that within the kind of context of what you'd be getting from a cash ISA versus cash savings products.
So if it's for your children, you definitely want it in cash, right? Because that's really safe.
Well, if you look at the returns and what you're doing for that ISA, there's a very strong argument to say that investments will give you that longer term horizon and opportunity.
How do you think we can foster a desire to save in kids?
I think it comes down to really engaging kids with what do you want to do with your money, and understanding that we have to make considered spending choices, that we can go out and spend it all immediately, or we can start thinking about what are the bigger ticket items. And that's a great place to start, right? You start breaking it down into a pot and going, actually, I really want to save for a mobile phone. And they can be big aspiration things, or I want to save up for a new pair of footy boots. But
it's that future planning.
Exactly. And looking forward and going, look, actually, you can go out and spend a £5 now, or you can get something bigger.